Hi everyone, my name is Valentina and my colleague's name is Karen. In this set of videos, we're going to explore four powerful teaching approaches. They are problem-based learning, task-based learning, project-based learning, and at last but not at least, content-based learning. I know, they are a lot, right? But don't worry, we will break down what they are, how they work, and when to use them. So, whether you are a teacher or just curious about innovative education methods, this one is for you.
Hello, I'm going to start talking about problem-based approach, and I'm going to give you some key concepts or principles of this approach. And the first one is that it encourages students to become the drivers of their learning process. Also involves complex issues from the real world problems and make them the classroom's topics of discussion. And for that reason, pupils apply knowledge to real problems. Another one is that it promotes the development of problem solving abilities, critical thinking, and communicative or communication skill. Other is that help the students to learn how to work in groups, how to find and analyze research materials, and take part in lifelong learning. It is like meaningful learning, and this approach has a characteristic that it is a student-centered teaching. Now I'm going to show you some practical examples that you can implement, and you can change, you can adapt as you want. The first one is called Saving the Local Park. The second one, Healthy School Lunches. The third one is called Reduce School Waste. All of them have the problem, the task, and the final product. You can add or change something if you want to do it. Now, as a reflection, I'm going to tell you some benefits and challenges that this approach has. The first benefit is that it develops critical thinking skills because learners analyze, evaluate, and create solutions, not just memorize information or facts, but like analyze and intake that. Another one is that it encourages collaboration because the students work in teams, improving communication and teamwork abilities. Next, it promotes self-directed learning because the students learn how to research, how to manage information, how to take ownership of their learning process. And finally, another benefit is that it connects learning to real world situations because the problems are authentic, it make learning more meaningful and motivated. And some challenges are, for example, that it requires a strong classroom management because group work and open-ended tasks can get chaotic without clear guidelines or the clear roles. Also, it can be time consuming because they need to do a deep exploration of the problem and take several classes or weeks, requiring careful planning, and yes, it needs more time. And also, assessment is more complex because it is harder to grade with simple tests, Evaluation must consider process, teamwork, and problem solving skills. And finally, needs careful scaffolding because students often need support in how to research, how to discuss, how to structure their solution, especially it happens in lower language levels. Now, finally, we have some resources that can do easier the comprehension of this approach. For example, we have a song that is called Solve If Together, and the song is played the main principles, the main concepts, give examples, and you can, if you memorize the song, you can understand or intake the what is this approach about. And then we have a lesson plan. It is like an example of a lesson plan based on this approach.
There's a question in the air, something big we have to share. Not a worksheet, not a test. It's a challenge, do our best. We don't wait for answers clear. We explore, we dive, we steer. Every voice and every mind, a solution we will find. Problem-based we think and we create. Learning by doing, yeah, we collaborate. Step by step we ask and we explore. Open up the world and learn so much more. Oh, we solve it together. First we ask, what do we know? Then we plan the way to go. Research deep and brainstorm wild. Every question makes us smile. We don't wait for answers clear. We explore, we dive, we steer. Every voice and every mind, a solution we will find. Problem-based we think and we create. Learning by doing, yeah, we collaborate. Step by step we ask and we explore. Open up the world and learn so much more. Oh, we solve it together. Work it out piece by piece. From the greatest to the least. Every problem is a door to learning more than ever before. Problem-based we think and we create. Learning by doing, yeah, we collaborate. Step by step we ask and we explore. Open up the world and learn so much more. Oh, we solve it together. Oh, we solve it together.
Now, let's talk about task-based learning, or as better known, TBL. It is a teaching method where students learn through completing meaningful tasks, like solving a problem or planning a trip, rather than focusing directly on grammar or language rules. The goal here is to use language as a tool for communication, helping students to develop real-world skills in context. But What about its key concepts? Well, TBL has some key concepts. The first one is meaningful communication. TBL prioritizes using language to achieve real outcomes. Students learn by doing, not just memorizing. The second one is authentic tasks. Tasks simulate real life activities, like making a phone call or planning an event, making learning relevant and engaging. The third one is focus on fluency, then accuracy. Students first focus on expressing ideas, later they reflect on language use and improve accuracy. The fourth one is student-centered learning, as you expected. Learners here take ownership of the process, collaborate with peers, and develop autonomy. But how does it work? Well, there is a task cycle structure. It has three stages. The first one is called pre-task. Here, teachers introduce the topic, activate prior knowledge, and provide useful language. The second stage is the task. Here, students complete the tasks using their language skills, and of course, the focus is on fluency, not accuracy. And the third stage is called post-task. Here, teachers review of the performance of students. They give feedback and focus on useful vocabulary or grammar that emerge during the task. On the internet, you can find a lot of examples, but here there are 4 practical examples. The first one is a role play. Yes, a role play. Here, just 2 students simulated a phone call to order food could work as a task. It could also be as problem solving. Groups decide how to survive on a deserted island using limited items. It could be fun. The third one is information gap. One student has a map, the other has directions, and they must communicate to find a location. And the last one is a project, like plan a class event and present it to the group. Now let's talk about its strengths and challenges. Let's start with the good ones. First, it boosts confidence and fluency by encouraging natural use of language. Second, it encourages collaboration, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. Third, it allows personalization, like making learning more meaningful for learners. And fourth, it supports language acquisition through context and need-based usage. That sounds right. But let's see the challenges. First, accuracy might suffer if language focus is neglected. It needs careful follow-up. Second, higher demand on teachers to manage tasks, adapt content, and guide the reflection. Third, uneven participation. Some students may dominate or avoid tasks without a structure. And fourth, assessment can be tricky, like as outcomes are not always predictable, it must be difficult to assess. If you continue wondering how TBL works, don't worry. Here, there is a comic, and at the end, you're going to see some practical examples. If after watching the video you're still having questions, let us know in the comments.
Now let's talk about project-based. Project-based is a student-centered pedagogy that involves students working where they have voice and choice throughout the project. It is centered around long-term projects and based on real-world problems. Also, teamwork is important because it encourages collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. And finally, another principle is that it ends with a public product or presentation. Here we also have 3 practical examples. As you know, you can use it, you can adapt it, and you can do whatever you want with this. And the first one is called Create a Travel Brochure. And the second one is Plan a School Event. And the third one is Neighborhood Guide Project. Here we have again the project, we have the skills, and we have the final product. As a reflection, we have some benefits and some challenges that we can face in implementing this approach. The benefit can be, for example, that it promotes deeper learning because the students explore topics in depth and truly understand content, not just memorize it. And also it builds real world skills, for example, collaboration, critical thinking, time management, communication, and also creativity. Another one is that it supports diverse learning styles because the students can demonstrate learning through different types of projects. For example, a video, presentations, posters, etc. And finally, it integrates multiple disciplines because projects often involve reading, writing, math, science, art, and technology, for example. And some of these challenges that we can face implementing this approach are, for example, the time consuming because projects take longer than traditional lessons and require careful planning over several classes. Also, it requires careful planning and structure because without clear guidelines, students can get off track or become overwhelmed. And another one is that assessment can be complex because teacher must evaluate both the final product and the process. And it includes teamwork and research skills, for example. And finally, the access to resources is another challenge because projects may require material, technology, or a space that are not always available for students. Finally, here we have some resources. We have again a song. The name is Build It Together, and it explains the concepts and give example of the approach. And if you memorize that, you can understand. If you learn the song, you can understand the concepts or remember the concept. And another thing is a poster that has like the explanation or the concepts.
Start with a question, a dream, or a need. Gather our ideas, plant a little seed. Plan it, create it, bring it to life. Working together, our future is bright. Project based, we build and explore. Step by step, we're learning much more. Ideas grow when we work side by side. Dream big, dive in, enjoy the ride. We make it real. Research and brainstorm, design and revise. Mistakes are just steps to something that flies. writing and drawing, speaking out loud. We shape our world and we make it proud. Project based, we build and explore. Step by step, we're learning much more. Ideas grow when we work side by side. Dream big, dive in, enjoy the ride. Every voice matters, every mind shines. Together we reach the tallest climbs. From a simple thought to a masterpiece. With teamwork and hope, there's no limit to reach. Final based, we build and explore. Step by step, we're learning much more. Enjoy the ride. We make it real. We make it real. Project-based, we build and explore. Step by step, we're learning much more. Ideas grow when we work side by side. Dream big, dive in, enjoy the ride.
Hey, thank you for coming all the way here and watching our videos. The last approach is content-based learning, or as better known, CBL. It is an approach where students learn a language through subject matter such as history, sciences, or even literature, rather than just focusing on language skills. This method helps students acquire language in context while deepening their understanding of the subject being taught. But what are its key concepts? Well, content-based learning has a lot of key concepts. The first one is language through content. Of course, students learn language by engaging with a subject. It could be any subject, as I already told you. But here it is important to remember that this is not about isolated grammar lessons. The second one is dual focus. Emphasis is on both content mastery and language development. Students improve language skills while learning meaningful information. The third one is authentic materials. Here, teachers must use real-world texts like articles, videos, data to promote deeper engagement and vocabulary development. Fourth, integrated skills. Listening, speaking, reading, and writing are naturally used together as students work with content. Fifth, scaffolding. Teachers support learners with visuals, simplified text, modeling, and vocabulary support to make content accessible. Sixth, learning engagement. When students are interested in the topic, they are more motivated to use and understand the language. Now, what about its practical examples? Well, the first one, and one of the most popular ones, is the one called CLEAL, which stands for Content and Language Integrated Learning. Here, students learn geography, for example, in English, by reading a text about volcanoes and discussing causes of eruptions. The second one is thematic units. A unit on the environment could be like with a reading, articles, debates, and writing essays. The third one could be a literary circle, reading and discussing a novel in English to explore themes, characters, and language. So it is not just about English, it goes beyond. CBL sounds right, doesn't it? Now let's talk about its strengths and challenges. Let's start with the good ones. First, it makes language learning purposeful and motivating. Second, it builds academic vocabulary and critical thinking. Third, it prepares learners for real world tasks and academic settings. Fourth, it encourages deeper learning through meaningful content. But what about these challenges? Well, the first one, as you might already know, content might be too complex for language levels, like it requires a strong scaffolding and it is not recommended for beginners. Second, teachers need to be confident in both subject and language teaching because students always have questions and teachers must be prepared to answer all of them. Third, balancing language and content objectives can be difficult or a little bit tricky. And fourth, assessment must consider both language progress and content understanding. Nonetheless, if you are still wondering how CBL works, here it is a lesson plan so you can see how it works and its dynamics.